Foreword, in which the author of this singular work tells the reader how he was led to become certain that the opera ghost really existed. The ghost in the Paris opera existed. Yes, he existed in flesh and blood, even though he gave himself every appearance of a real ghost, a true phantom. When I first began going through the archives of the National Academy of Music, I was struck by the astonishing correlations between the phenomena attributed to the ghost and the mysterious, fantastic tragedy that occurred at the same time, and I was soon led to the idea that the tragedy could perhaps be rationally explained by the phenomena. The events in question go back only 30 years, and in the dancers' lounge at the opera it would still not be hard to find respectable old people of unquestionable honesty who remember, as if it were only yesterday, the mysterious and tragic circumstances surrounding the abduction of Christine Daae, the disappearance of Viscount Raoul de Chagny, and the death of his older brother, Count Philippe, whose body was found on the shore of the lake that lies beneath the opera in the direction of the Rue Scribe. But none of those witnesses ever thought that the legendary opera ghost was involved in that terrible calamity. I was slow to realize the truth because my mind was troubled by an investigation that kept coming up against seemingly unearthly events. Finally, I had proof that my intuition had not deceived me, and all my efforts were rewarded on the day when I became certain that the opera ghost had been more than an apparition. On that day, I had spent long hours poring over Memoirs of a Manager, a lightweight book by the overly skeptical Armand Moncharmin, who during his time at the opera understood nothing about the ghost's bewildering actions. He was vigorously making fun of them at the very time when he became the first victim of the curious financial operation that took place inside the magic envelope. Feeling disheartened, I had just left the library when I met the administrator of our National Academy. He was on the landing, talking with a lively, elegantly dressed little old man, to whom he introduced me. The administrator was aware of my research and knew how impatiently I had tried in vain to discover the whereabouts of Monsieur Foreward, the examining magistrate in the famous Chagny case. No one had known what had become of him, or even if he was dead or alive. Now he was just back from Canada, where he had spent 15 years, and the first thing he had done in Paris was to come to the Secretariat of the Opera to get a complimentary ticket. That little old man was Monsieur Foreward himself. We spent a good part of the evening together, and he told me all about the Chagny case, as he had understood it. He had had to conclude, for lack of evidence, that the Viscount was insane and that his older brother's death was accidental, but he remained convinced that a terrible tragedy had taken place between the two brothers with regard to Christine Daae. He was unable to tell me what had become of her or the Viscount, and of course he only laughed when I mentioned the ghost. He, too, had been told about the singular happenings which seemed to indicate that some sort of supernatural being had taken up residence in one of the most obscure parts of the opera, and he knew the story of the magic envelope. But in all this, he felt there was nothing that required the attention of a magistrate investigating the Chagny case. All he had done about it was to listen for a few moments to the testimony of a witness who had come forward of his own accord to say that he had met the ghost. This witness was none other than the man called the Persian in fashionable Paris society. He was well known to all of the opera subscribers. The magistrate decided he was a lunatic. As you can well imagine, I was prodigiously interested in what Monsieur Foreward said about the Persian. I wanted to find that precious original witness, if it was not yet too late. My good luck prevailed, and I discovered him in the little apartment on the Rue de Rivoli, where he still lived, and where he died 5 months after my visit. At first I was skeptical, but I could no longer have any doubts when the Persian told me, with childlike candor, everything he personally knew about the ghost, and when he gave me full possession of proofs of his existence, as well as Christine Daae's strange correspondence which cast a glaringly bright light on his appalling destiny. No, the ghost was not a myth. I also found out as much as I could about the Persian, and concluded that he was an honest man, incapable of contriving a machination that might mislead justice. With my evidence in hand, I went all over the ghost's vast domain, the majestic building that he had turned into his empire, and the Persian's documents were corroborated by everything my eyes saw and my mind perceived. Then a marvelous discovery decisively completed my work. It will be recalled that recently, when workmen were digging in the basement of the opera to bury phonographic recordings of singers' voices, they uncovered a skeleton. As soon as I saw it, I had proof that it was the skeleton of the opera ghost. But I will come back to that skeleton and the question of what should be done with it.